What? We're back?
Yeah.
Oh, then I'll stop picking my nose. We're back. Hi! Okay. Anybody else on Golden Globes, anything? I don't understand why those women wear all those plunges. I mean, God, some of the clothes. Jess, did you like, what did you think of what's her name speech?
Jodie's?
Yes, Jodie's. You liked it.
I did.
You're a sucker. You see, you're a sap. You fall for anything. Here, her speech, I have the transcript here. I mean, she started out to me annoying. Here's what she said. Thank you. Well, for all you SNL fans, I'm 50. I'm 50. You know, I need to do that without this dress on. What did that mean?
I don't know.
That didn't make any sense. And that was the first indication that this, whatever she was going to say, was going to be one non sequitur after another. I mean, she's supposed to be very bright, but this was so all over the place. And then she says, what do you say? I'm 50, she says again. You know, I was going to bring my walker tonight, but it just didn't go with the cleavage. Well, this is typical, again, Hollywood thinking. And maybe she's making the point that women who are 50 in Hollywood are like old. I don't know what to tell you. It's then she goes into how she has no privacy. And why shouldn't she have privacy? And then the next thing you know, she's sounding like she's in a confessional and she's telling us all this private stuff about herself. I think she clearly finally said out loud, although she didn't use the word, that she was a lesbian, something which she has refused to acknowledge up until now. And she is not like she's just said that she wanted to thank her soul sister in life, her co-parent, her ex-partner in love, my confessor, my most beloved BFF of 20 years, Sydney Bernard. And so everybody cheered like she'd finally, come out, I guess. But so she comes out after she complained about everybody always wanting to know about... It made no sense. If you don't think you owe anybody, information about your love life, then fine. But she's still complaining about it while she then does it. Very odd. It was very odd. And my word for it, ultimately, self-indulgent, not to mention too long. Here's the end. It didn't come soon enough. I can't help but get moony. You know. This feels like the end of one era and the beginning of something else. Scary and exciting, and now what? Well, I may never be up on this stage again, on any stage for that matter. Change, you gotta love it. I will continue to tell stories, to move people by being moved. The greatest job in the world. Okay, so she just has said, she seemingly has said she isn't acting, but then she says she is going to act. It was, boy, is she odd. It's just that from now on I may be holding a different talking stick. And maybe it won't be as sparkly. Maybe it won't open on 3,000 screens. Maybe it will be so quiet and delicate that only dogs can hear it. But it will be my writing on the wall. Jodie Foster was here. I still am. And I want to be seen, to be understood deeply, and to be not so very lonely. Get a shrink. I mean, it was, come on. You do overshare. All the while, this was prefaced by, you're always looking into my life, and I don't have any privacy, and haven't I? It was the most screwed up thing I've ever heard. I'm taking a break. Enough. I'll stop beating up on Jodie Foster, who I must say looked very good. Excellent. We'll be back.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Lynn Cullen Live and Panera Bread celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King.
Free by 1963 became the black man's battle cry, and Birmingham, Alabama became the battlefield. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was arrested on April 12th and placed in solitary confinement as King led demonstrators toward downtown Birmingham. From prison, King wrote his famous Letter from Birmingham Jail, which for the first time clearly articulated what the movement was about. From this point forward, the civil rights movement would never be the same.
Countdown to King, brought to you by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Have a greater hand in your health, and Lynn Cullen Live.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on meals from your favorite restaurants, museums, and shows. This week only, get discounts up to 20% on gift cards to the Cheesecake Factory. Supplies are limited. bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. bergbargains.com.
Today, My Care Navigator forwarded my medical records and freed my mind for other things.
Introducing My Care Navigator, your 24/7 healthcare co-pilot, new from Highmark.
My Care Navigator found me the ideal specialist. Less work for me.
My Care Navigator makes it easier to navigate the system. Call 1-888-BLUE-428 to connect with yours today. Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield is an independent licensee of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
All right, Jess was just sharing with me her drinking game while watching the Golden Globes. You sure gave you gave yourself ample opportunity to drink. You know, usually you pick one thing. I just said, so when did you drink? And she starts rattling off 500,000 things that could make her have to take a drink. Every time you saw a rib cage, you meaning a too skinny?
Yeah, like every time you see
bones. Oh, even bones through a dress? Like, how are you going to see them?
You have the cutout.
Oh, a cutout, and you could see ribs. Okay. There weren't many of them. I don't think there was any of those, so that didn't let you drink. Anytime Anytime somebody was wearing sunglasses. Well, I didn't see any of those. Oh, yeah, right. You were okay. Anytime somebody was wearing sunglasses, anytime somebody cries on stage. Wasn't a lot of that.
Yeah, Adele totally cried.
Adele cried?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Jodie Foster was getting teary.
Jodie Foster. You counted Jodie Foster? Give me a break. Did you drink every time somebody made a fool of themselves? That would be a good one. What else? Do you drink when people were not paying attention, were shown not paying attention to what was going on? Well, that's a good, if you want to drink, that's a good one.
When someone congratulates someone else's charity work.
Oh, and you drink when somebody congratulates somebody for their charity work.
Mm-hmm. It's like rich people patting themselves
on the back. Were you drunk by the end?
I was a little tipsy.
She was tipsy. Okay. All right. Well. And the one sort of newsy aspect of it that I thought was interesting is that the Academy Awards snubbed Ben Affleck for his directing of Argo, and I mean, I guess snubbed him in general, and he won Best Director at the Golden Globes. I mean, to win one and not even be nominated in another is pretty strange. And then Argo beat Lincoln. Didn't Argo beat Lincoln for... And the only thing I can think about that is that, well, it's the foreign press, and so they're not as into Abe as we are. I suspect. Maybe that's it. Whatever. I'm thinking I've got to get more serious now. Oh, I don't wanna. Well, I came upon something that I do want to share with you. Here again, I don't think this constitutes new information. I think, in fact, probably you know it. I just think it's something we need to remind ourselves of, because if we don't remind ourselves of it, we are in danger of thinking that what exists is fine, that it was always thus, and it wasn't. And what I'm talking about is the sort of sense that if an economy picks up, that everyone who is producing in that economy should realize that lift. If an economy starts moving again, humming along, if profits are up, then paychecks should be up. And that is the way it always worked until very recently. And by very recently, I'm sounding like an old person, because I think you have to look at the last 25 years to see when this started, this assumption that if things were going well, then everyone from the guy in the corner office to the janitor was going to get a piece of that burgeoning pie. And that is what used to be. It's what created a middle class in this country. That if you worked, if you had a job and you worked at it, you were compensated. Wow, what an idea. You were compensated in a manner that allowed you to live with some dignity, to afford a roof over your head, and to afford a car, to afford, the ability to feed your children, all that kind of stuff. And we know it's not the case anymore. Republicans don't seem to know this. They live in some, again, alternative universe where they don't know people who are having any difficulties. And so they can tell themselves that if people are having difficulties, they're just lazy. But the major thing contributing to income inequality in this country, which, as you know, is growing and growing and growing, that space between what the boss makes and what the worker makes, was always the boss made more, of course. But it was like, the boss, of course, makes more, but the workers, they did okay, as I said. They were middle class. Now, the boss is taking such a huge, and the executives are taking such a huge chunk of the money, while they're squeezing money out of the workers, not giving them any of these increasing profits, but actually, case in point, if you think I'm overstating the case, let's take, as they do in this piece, Caterpillar. Okay? Caterpillar that makes the tractors and big vehicles. Caterpillar reported record profits last year. Great. Caterpillar also insisted on a 6-year wage freeze for their blue-collar workers at the same time. So, the guys in the suits get richer and richer, and the guys who actually do the work, who build the tractors, get poorer and poorer. Now, I don't think this can withstand any ethical scrutiny or moral scrutiny. Wages, in fact, for hard-working Americans are the hardest-working people in the world. Wages have fallen to a record low as a share of our country's gross domestic product. And it's because the guys up on the top are not sharing anything anymore. If things are good, they just pocket all the money and tell the workers, I'm not going to pay you anymore. And I'm not going to, I'm not going to have, they used to give workers not only a living wage, they used to give them pensions. Remember that? So a lot of labor economists looking at what the hell has happened has said, we as a nation had this sort of assumption that the labor share of the wealth was a reasonable share and not something you kept trying to depress and push down. And a labor economist from Harvard is quoted here as saying, it is very, very disquieting for the great bulk of American workers. Labor's shrinking share is actually worse than the statistics show because they used to get pensions. They don't get pensions anymore because they used to have health benefits that were more generous than they are now. All of those things have slipped to their lowest share in more than 50 years, while corporate profits have climbed to their highest share in 50 years. What the hell is wrong with this picture? And why do we tolerate it? I think we're not tolerating it anymore. Starting not to. But this is why I want to just say we can't be quiet about this. The fact that in the last presidential election, this sense of, we started hearing these, you heard the Republican candidate talk about the 47%, the takers. Those are the workers! The takers are the 1%. What? It's just amazing that they don't see that. If you were to have a pizza and you were to literally give what that 1% share is to one person in the room and then take the other, 500 people and tell them to, make do with one slice while the one person gets 3/4 of the pizza, I think people would say right off the bat, that's not fair. That's not right. There are all kinds of forces, as we know, that have driven wages down. The guys in the suits shipped a lot of well-paying jobs overseas. New technologies have replaced a lot of people. Robots have replaced people. But with all that going on, that the rich would actually put their boots on the heads of labor and push them further down as they rose even higher is so repulsive to me that I really think that it is extraordinary that there is not a stronger push by workers in this country to get their fair share. Now, you do that with unions, but you see what the Republicans, who, of course, are the handmaidens of the rich, what they have been doing so successfully. They've been destroying unions through legislation as much as possible, pushing unions down. You can look at the fact that I'm being told there's no broadcast now.
Yeah.
At 10:33.
You're good.
Well, somebody just said at 10:33 that. Oh. Well, no, he says the show plays 6 minutes and then stops, no further video or audio.
Tell him to just restart.
Restart, says Jesse. Well, he can't hear me anyway, so screw it. Okay. Since in the last 12 years, productivity in the United States has increased 23%, meaning workers are producing. In that same time, real wages have flatlined. And they've been flatlining for years and years and years and years. I'm speaking a lot of percentages and numbers, but when you listen to these things, I don't know, I see red. 1% of households got 65% of all the nation's income growth from 2002 to 2007. Imagine that pizza again. Pretty outrageous. So, without unions, there's no pushback. This article mentions one woman. Here's an American worker. She works at KFC at a restaurant in Manhattan, okay? She's worked there for 10 years. Do you know what she makes? After 10 years? $7.75 an hour. That's not a living wage, obviously, especially in Manhattan. I'm assuming she doesn't live in Manhattan, so she's got to pay transportation costs to get to this job. She says, being here 8 years, I think I should be getting more, she says. You can fight for a raise, but I don't think you're going to get it. That's an American worker. She sounds sort of meek, doesn't she? She doesn't sound angry. She sounds meek. And that's what's happened to so many American workers. They can't get jobs. I'm sure whether she gets any benefits at all, I can't imagine. Anyone who works should be compensated in a manner in which they can live. Even college graduates aren't. There's questions whether the investment in college ends up being worth it. College graduates, 70% of college graduates have had their hourly wages decline since 2000. And that's, figuring for inflation, which isn't much of anything these days. So I just, you can graph this stuff and you can see one line going sky high, and that's for that tiny little part of the suits. And then you can see everything else going like this, and that's the bulk of American workers. The producers. So our productivity, those workers keep doing better and better and better because they're squeezed to do more and more and more. And their wages go down. Is there any possible way to argue that that is proper? Now, I know economics is not a moral system, but Henry Ford, who was hardly what I would consider an exemplar of moral behavior, was a smart businessman. And he knew something that these idiots today don't seem to know. If you don't pay your workers, you ain't going to sell any products because they don't have any money to buy anything. It makes me crazy. I think I'll take a break.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Packers.
Vikings.
We come from different places.
Uptown.
Downtown.
We come to different conclusions.
Half empty.
Half full.
But when we live united, we make a real difference in the building blocks of life. Children succeed in school, families gain financial stability, the health of our neighbors improves, and suddenly so do our communities. Real change won't happen without you.
Live United.
So give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Sign up today at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Okay, I got a great idea for you. Be part of history. Last shot. How about heading to D.C. for the inauguration in 1 week? How about it? Because there's a bus or two, however many fill up, going. And the bus that's going is the same wonderful company that took so many of us to the Jon Stewart Sanity Rally in D.C., the DeBolt company. They've put together a presidential inaugural trip, and this is a one-day affair. And again, because it's Martin Luther King Day, it's a national holiday, and quite a lot of people actually have that day off. So that's a 3-day weekend for a lot of people. And this is for Monday, January 21, week from today. And there are 5 different pickup spots. The bus will pick you up in Robinson at the Walmart. The bus will then move and pick up at Homestead at the waterfront. The bus will pick up at University of Pittsburgh in Oakland, Soldiers and Sailors Hall. We'll pick up in Monroeville, and the final pickup in New Stanton. Now that's early in the morning, starting as early as 4:45, and stopping for breakfast at 8:15, getting you to D.C., to the National Mall at 10:45, and picking you back up, departing the downtown at 5 p.m., getting you home by about 11 o'clock that night. And feeding you dinner, by the way, all-you-can-eat dinner in Gaithersburg, Maryland, on the way back. So there's limited space available. You'll get the transportation, a commemorative Metro ticket, and the all-you-can-eat dinner for $89 a person, and obviously the chance to be part of the crowd that will see Barack Obama sworn in for his second term. Here's how you reserve your seat. 1-800-4-DEBOLT. D-E-B-O-L-T. 1-800-4-DEBOLT. D-E-B-O-L-T. Think about it. What a wonderful idea. Wow. Part of history.
Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for Louis Black, plus Les Miserables, Yo Gabba Gabbas, and News of the Weird. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania, and on the web at pghcitypaper.com, and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Once again, here I am. Chris writes, I totally agree with you on the Jodie Foster speech. What I thought was weird is, like you said, she wants her privacy, but we now know that she is a lesbian and also that her mother has Alzheimer's and is dying. Although I did think the words she spoke to her mother were very touching. We have a...
No, they hung up.
We have a what?
They hung up.
Oh. And the other thing, what's with her and her friendship with Gibson? Now Clarence is saying something about the audio's interrupted too. We got troubles. I know they made a couple of movies together, but are they really that good of friends? Maybe she felt sorry for him because no, they're really good friends. She hotly defended him and has, and I'm sure made a point of taking him to the Golden Globes. I mean, that's her table, and we have a caller. Go ahead, caller. Hi.
Hey, Lynn, how are you? It's Mike in Philadelphia.
Mike in Philadelphia. Hi.
How you been?
Pretty good. How about you?
Oh, not bad. Hey, if I can play devil's advocate for it, and I agree with you on 99% of your rantings there. If I could play a little bit of devil's advocate, I have let's say, a very good friend who's in the management field. Could probably be considered like in that 1%. They were asked to go to a company to save that company because it was failing. It was on the verge. It was on death's door. That friend of mine saved the company. Then the employees found out that there was a wage freeze for them and a bonus for my friend. The workers were pretty upset about that and tried to revolt in the best way that they could. And my friend had to talk them off of the cliff by saying, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have any jobs. Which was really, to be quite honest with you, the case. The company was folding. So what do you do in that situation?
Well, I don't know. I mean, what? He single-handedly? What the heck did he do? I mean, I don't know.
Well,
you wouldn't see
it's a her.
Her.
It's a her. The company was it was an international company. It was not here in the States, and the company was being headed by somebody who was the person who ran the company was very lackadaisical. Let the workers come and go, do whatever they want. The product suffered, the sales suffered, all this stuff. She went in and really kind of cracked the whip, so to speak, turned the company around, made it, for lack of a better term, a little more American, instead of being laid back and losing money hand over fist. And, yeah, she basically saved their jobs in the sense of the company was going to basically shut down that branch because it was not profitable. And she turned it around and made it profitable by instituting certain things work-wise, sales-wise, turning things around. And actually, they had a lot of people leave because they said, we will not work under these conditions, which weren't bad conditions, by the way. And people were being paid, they weren't minimum wage jobs. These people were being paid, far beyond the living wage. And a lot of people did walk out the door. Other people stayed and complained. And like I said, she basically saved their jobs and saved the company there because the company was going to just basically shut down the branch.
Well, my sense is that, first of all, you can never expect workers. I don't think, and in my experience, expect workers to be grateful to their employers, and also because it's difficult if, in fact, the workers feel squeezed. They're probably working harder than they were, and then there's a freeze, and they're aware that she gets more money. You react as a human being reacts to that.
Sure,
Wait a minute. The other thing is that for some reason, there doesn't ever seem to be on the part, I don't hear it, on the part of managers and management, that they wouldn't have a job if the workers weren't there producing whatever it is that their service is or that their product is. It's always management that gets all when in fact labor and management have to have a symbiotic relationship. They both
Absolutely.
They need each other. And when I think the American pattern here has gotten out of whack, has really gotten out of whack, where workers are continually squeezed, but they are not rewarded for increased productivity. Now, the example you're giving me might, not fit that scenario, but American workers just keep getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And yes, they complain and complain and complain. My working life, I have listened to my coworkers complain all my working life. And I've complained along with them. And I remember when I worked at WTAE television in the 80s, the complaints. We were squawking and screaming about how hard we were working, how little we were being paid. Let me tell you something. A reporter now at that station is working harder.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe working twice as hard and making half as much.
Yeah, sure.
And yet we were complaining back then. I'm saying workers complaining is just what workers do.
Yeah. Have you ever met anybody in your life who's ever said, "I get paid enough"?
It's very rare.
Yeah,
Who feels that it's a fair deal?
I know some people who are in some pretty high up positions who complain about their salary, who are making well into the six figures, and complain about their boss makes 7 figures.
That's right,
so
and it's because there's always somebody who's making more. You always want, so I remember the general manager at TAE at one point turning me down when I said, hey, I'm not making enough here. I need a raise. And he said, look, I'll give you a raise. And then you know what happens? Your standard of living moves up and you spend more than you were, and you end up in the same place you are now, feeling like...
make $1 million, spend $1 million.
Yeah, you need a raise. And his idea was, what difference does it make? You'll still feel... I thought that was a little ludicrous, but I'm sure it's true, too.
Yeah, and I would like to see them do. Yeah, as you know, I used to live in the Netherlands when I met you over there.
Yeah.
I would like to see something change with the minimum wage here. The minimum wage in Europe is much more closer to a living wage, and it's also on a scale. Kids who are 15, 16, they get a certain minimum wage. Once you turn 18, you get a different minimum wage. Once you are, I think 25, then you get a different minimum wage. And those minimum wages are, there's a sliding scale. Every year you get an increase in that minimum wage.
Okay, and there is no way that $7.75 an hour should be an acceptable wage.
No. If I remember correctly, at 16, when you could start working there, like a cashier or working at a grocery store, something like that, 16 was €8 an hour, which is about $9.50, maybe $9.25, $9.25.
Right.
That was a 16-year-old. Then at 18, I know it's over 10 at 18. So now you're talking that's $11, $11.50.
Okay, but
so you're already making more.
All right, so but if some American came over and said, let's institute it the way we do in America, you'd impoverish a huge percentage of Europeans who are, living okay.
Absolutely.
We are,
and people, and they don't have a lot of the expenses that we have. An 18-year-old doesn't have the college bills that they have. It costs you about €1,000 to get a college education over there. That's your entire college education.
That's right.
That's how much kids here spend on books a year.
Oh yeah, easy.
There's $1,000 for your college education.
Oh yeah. We're nuts. This country has lost its marbles. But here, I appreciate your story, but I think you would agree that overall, it's pretty unconscionable what's going on in this country in regard to wages. Right? Did you knock him off already? No? Yes? He left. Okay. It's just beyond belief to me. And then you read stuff like this. Come on, this country. Well, this was big news last week, but I didn't mention anything about it. The United States has like the most screwed up healthcare system in the civilized world, in the rich world. We pay more per person for health, and we have a lower outcome, a poorer outcome than any other, nation. We're dying at a greater rate. We're suffering from illness and injury at greater rates. I mean, you can quantify this stuff. Our children are likely to not live as long as children in other nations of the world. We do not help the poor. It's the poorer people who are the ones that are going to die. Even our rich, who you have to figure have access to whatever it is they need, the rich don't live as long as the rich in other countries. That this wealthy nation ranks at the bottom of almost any key marker of public health should be a source of such shame. And part of it, of course, is, again, the corporatization of America and the winner-take-all mentality, and the little people, well, screw them. We have greater teen pregnancy, even as we, refuse to educate teens about pregnancy. We have greater sexually transmitted diseases. We have greater HIV and AIDS. We've got greater obesity and diabetes and drug-related deaths and violent death and general disability. And we spend twice as much on health care as the average paid in other industrial countries. More than 1 in 5 of our children lives in poverty. And it's not that their parents are takers. It's that their parents are working 3 lousy American jobs and not able to make ends meet. How do we tolerate this? How do we tolerate this? When did we become so meek? When you see Americans rise up, they're rising up to protect their friggin' guns. They're not rising up to protect their children, their futures. They're not rising up demanding what is only moral. Beyond me. All right. That's it for me. That's it for me. That's it for me. That's it for me. Okay, now I got to go home and deal with the fact that, so I had my my oven on self-clean the other night, and I went to sleep, and I was awakened at 2:30 by the sounded like an explosion, shattering glass all over the place. Now, I'm somebody who likes to sleep, so even though the sound of shattering glass woke me up at 2:30, I sort of thought, oh, what's that? It's probably one of the cats has knocked something over. It'll be there in the morning. And I went right back to sleep. All right. Well, about a half hour after that, I'm jolted awake again because every smoke alarm in my house went off at the same time. That got me up. And the oven had like exploded from the heat. The glass inside it was... I don't know. So anyway, so now I've got to see about fix. It's beyond me. Is that not a defect? Is that not a defect? I tried to call the oven people on their 800 line. And of course, I was told, given great American productivity at the corporate level where they're always thinking of customers, this is a large company, Please call back during regular business hours, as if ovens don't blow up on the weekend. Okay. That's it. I didn't mean to bother you with that. But that's why I just realized now I got to deal with the oven. You deal with your day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow, okay? Ooh, there's some blue sky out there. Enjoy.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.